And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And man, movies in the 1980s, especially kids' movies, sometimes went really hard and were so much better than they had any right to be in a lot of ways. Okay, so I want to talk about Care Bears. I know, it's weird. It's like, dude, aren't you like 50? Okay, almost. But the Care Bears movie from 1985 was one of those movies that I saw as a kid and stuck with me. And it's come up a few times on streams over at Music Free Gaming because it's one of those movies that said it went really, really hard. Okay. Now, let's let's back up a little bit. And for those of you who have not been exposed to Care Bears, understandable, okay? But the Care Bears it was a show targeted at younger kids. We're talking like 8 and younger. Probably 8 was probably the upper end of their target demographic here. And it was a bunch of these fluffy little bears that had symbols on their tummies. And whatever the bad guy did or whoever's having trouble, the Care Bears would show up, help them to share their feelings, be kind and stuff. And it almost always ended with the Care Bear stare, right? So the bears would, Care Bear stare, and light rainbow goodness would shoot out of their tummies, hit whoever the antagonist was or whatever that episode, and they would feel their feelings and would then be able to share them, and everything was wonderful, right? It's one of those really saccharine type of shows, okay? And it was pretty much made to just sell cute stuffed bears to kids. I used to watch the show a lot because my sisters were particularly into it and younger than me, so they were right there. And, it was fun. I watched it with them. But the movie, it came out because, it was the mid-'80s. Oh, yes, we will obviously make movies of Care Bears and Transformers and He-Man and, right, all of the really popular kids shows were getting movies. Okay, so here comes Care Bears. Now, I don't know what I expected as a kid when I saw Care Bears, but what came out of this movie is not that, I don't know, overly sweet and whatever the TV show was. Yes, there is some of that, okay, because it is still Care Bears. It was the same people and stuff. But dude, the movie went dark. It went dark and it went hard, and it was surprisingly good. It was better than any Care Bears movie had any right to be. I went back and looked. Apparently, the Care Bears movie made more money than Disney's feature that year, which I think was, I can't remember, if it was the Black Cauldron or Dark Crystal. But it just, probably the Black Cauldron, because that was the other fully animated one they did. And it was just, this one just trounced it on a much smaller budget, I should also add. But yeah, so here's the thing. Let me give you the general overall plot. We're going to talk full spoilers because the movie is like 40 years old, all right? I'm not worried about spoiler windows. But the basic idea is, okay, the Care Bears, they live up in Care-a-Lot, which is sort of a city in the clouds. And they spy on children. No, they look for kids who are in need of help, okay? And there are a couple of people that are going to help during this movie. The first is actually a pair. It's a brother and sister duo who their parents abandoned them, right? Hey, let's just talk about hard, dark plot points here for a minute, right? The parents apparently abandoned these kids and abandoned them when they were old enough to realize that they were being abandoned because they had apparently loved their parents and were afraid of making friends because they're afraid of then losing them later. Okay. So Friend Bear and Secret Bear go out to help them. The other person is Nicholas. Now, Nicholas, he works as a magician's helper to the great Fettuccine, because, I don't know, fettuccine doesn't need help. It's just fine the way it is. You get the pasta, the cheese. No, but you get he's a circus magician, right? And Nicholas is his sort of bumbling assistant. He wants to be there. He wants to have friends. And he's not a good magician. He's sort of lonely. And yeah, he's in a weird spot. And Tenderheart Bear is going to go down to try to help him. Tenderheart, by the way, is voiced by Billy Mae Richards, who's the same actor. She does the voice of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as well. So I can't help it as I'm watching this movie, hearing "Ready, Santa" anytime Tenderheart speaks. But that's a me thing, okay? Anyway, Fettuccine ordered a trunk full of junk, maybe to find something to use this magic act. One of the things in the trunk is this magic book that's possessed by an evil spirit. Yeah, this is a thing. Okay. And unsurprisingly, the evil spirit possessed book goes wrong. All right. Are we shocked? No. But this is what sort of then drives the movie. Okay. So this is sort of the setup. Well, here's where things get fun. I guess where the plot actually starts happening, okay? So we've got the kids, we've got Nicholas. Nicholas opens the book. Right? The book calls to him. He opens the book. The spirit says, "Hey, look, I can teach you real magic, not the phony card tricks that Fettuccine's doing. And I can help you make friends." Well, or actually it says something more along the lines of, "I could help you get what you want." Okay? What Nicholas actually wants is to not be lonely anymore. And what the spirit wants is to make everyone lonely and miserable just like him. Okay? It's sort of like the 80s version of social media. All right? It is very much that jive of, how about you cast a spell so they know what you feel like? Okay, and we will make them all stop caring, right? Because again, remember Care Bears movie? Yeah. Obviously, when people stop caring about anything or each other, yeah, things go bad, unsurprisingly. Well, this then causes issues with the Care Bears, whose whole power source is based off of people caring or something like that. So they had, what was fun is they built basically a Care Bear transporter, the Rainbow Rescue Beam. Okay. So I sounds like I'm sarcastic, and I kind of am, but remember, kids movie, right? But it's a transporter, so they can basically beam up and down, and they accidentally beam Kim and Jason and Fred and the Secret Bear back up to Care-a-Lot. And then all the stuff happens with Nicholas, and they get trapped somewhere that's not Care-a-Lot. They sort of, as they're up there, they explore, they have fun, they have a song, they go to beam down because, hey, they found parents for them. Hey, transporter goes awry, and it's like, if there's one thing we've learned from Star Trek, transporters have problems, and they get beamed somewhere else. And because the carrying magic or whatever is failing, the Care Bears can't get down to the planet, or they can't get down to Earth because their cloud cars won't start, that type of thing. And so they hop on a boat to sail a river that they've never sailed down before, hoping that maybe it will take them somewhere. Okay. And of course, they eventually run into Kim and Jason and the other two bears and a bunch of other people. All right. And by people, I mean fuzzy marketing devices. Okay. Again, the sarcasm is coming out here, which, again, this is the reason the movie exists. So you would expect, oh, yes, we're going to have all of these. We're going to introduce all these new characters so we can sell toys of them. And they do. Okay. And what you get are the Care Bears cousins. It's basically a bunch of non-bears that start out with plain white tummies and will get symbols on them at the end. But, right, you get Braveheart Lion and Cozy Heart Penguin and Swift Heart Rabbit and, I don't know, Proud Heart Cat and Loyal Heart Dog and, a bunch of, right, Strong Heart Elephants, right? because they apparently ran out of clever names like Good Luck Bear and Bedtime Bear. And I think my sister had a Bedtime Bear. I had a little Good Luck Bear resin statue. It was about 2 inches tall, maybe, that I used to have at my desk by my computer when I was growing up. I loved Good Luck Bear. Good Luck Bear was cool. But anyway, so you get all of these, get all the Care Bears with the cool names, and then all of the cousins have adjective hearts, right? Whatever they are. But they help out the Care Bears, and Kim and Jason, as the evil spirit that Nicholas is using, convinces him to send a spell out to stop Kim and Jason from caring. They're the last ones, apparently, who don't care. Why? Because they've been surrounded by people who actually care, right? And I think that's an interesting message in and of itself. The idea that having people around that actually care about you can help you be a more caring person. Okay, and that's a good message, right? And this is one of those things, the movie hits an idea that I didn't learn from this movie, okay? Because I was an adult before I really fell into this. I really understood this. And even then, I still am wishy-washy in the application of it. But the idea is that if you want friends, you need to open yourself up and to make friends and to be a friend, right? Kim and Jason learned that they can't lock themselves away from everybody. If they want friends, and they need to, yes, be open to being hurt, but to be open. Nicholas wants friends, but doesn't know how to go out about making friends with people. He thinks the idea of getting somebody to like him is through being really good at stage magic or something like that, being good at his show, something like that. Right? That's not the idea. You get your typical kid movie hijinks. Monster shows up, the Care Bears, or the Care Bear cousins, actually in this case, do things to stop whatever the possessed thing is at the time. Okay? And that's great. Okay? That plays out pretty well. Again, typical kids movie stuff. Where things get really crazy is when they all get back to Earth that is being torn apart by people that don't care. And it gets dark and it gets creepy here. For a movie made for 6 or 8-year-olds, this movie gets surprisingly dark. And, you get your typical back and forth, over, fighting over Nicholas, right? Because you got the Care Bears like, look, the spirit doesn't care about you. The spirit just wants you so it can do its own thing. We actually care. Now, I can understand Nicholas's skepticism given that he's never seen them before. Right? They just show up and they care about him, right? Again, that's a hard thing for him to understand, understandably so, right? And the book, the spirit's like, no, see, I helped you. I am the one you should be helping here, right? So they go back and forth, and there comes the inevitable Care Bear stare, right? And you get all of the Care Bears who, tummy lights at Nicholas. The Care Bear cousins like, how can we help? And they make animal noises, right? Because they don't Care Bear stare. Because it doesn't rhyme, right? But they all do their thing, which helps the Care Bears and their superpowers the Care Bear stare, and it doesn't work. Right? The Care Bears kind of don't succeed in this. It's not a tragedy of a movie, but the Care Bears fail. But where they have failed directly to just stare down Nicholas, Kim and Jason step up, okay? And they open up and share their experience. Like, look, we can be friends. These people care. Let's focus on friendship and caring and all of that stuff, and not trying to make people lonely and miserable and all of this stuff, okay? And it turns out somebody reaching out from the heart to actually want to help is more effective than a bunch of fuzzy little critters staring at you. Okay. I know we're all shocked, but it's true. Okay. The reason I come back to this is this, you know, I've been sort of snarky and sarcastic at times throughout this really late movie review, but the reality is this actually is a pretty good movie for 1985 and a movie made on instead of 85, it's like a $2 million budget. And yeah, there are definitely problems with it. Okay. I mean, it's, the songs in it are definitely a bit cheesy. Okay. Not surprising. The animation is not great. It's a step up from just the TV show, but not much of a step up. Okay. And there are definitely some continuity problems, right? The Care Bear cousins all have white tummies. They'll eventually get their tummy symbols at the end of the movie, except once in a while when they have them, right? There's one fight in the middle of the movie, Braveheart Lion. He grabs a stick to beat an evil tree. And can we just talk about how weird it is? I'm going to pick up this piece of wood and beat this tree. It's like, I'm going to beat you with your bits and pieces that have fallen off you. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's. Start thinking about that too long, and that's gets a little dark. But he has his Braveheart Lion symbol on his tummy at that point, and then it's gone again. Nothing, no comment on it. Nobody said it's just there. And there are a few times where, I think I saw at one point one of the Care Bears didn't have their tummy symbol, and after the cousins get theirs, I think the penguin ends up, they show him and he doesn't have his on there at one point. You know, it's, again, we are not talking the highest level of animation here, which is what I would expect from this movie. The story that gets presented and how dark this thing goes is a shock, right? This is one of those movies that, yeah, as I was doing some research here before the show, I hadn't realized how much of a cult classic this thing has actually become. And I get it, right? Here I am. I'm a middle-aged man talking about the Care Bears movie. There's a reason for it, because it's a good movie, good message. Yeah, definitely worth showing to kids. But don't be surprised if your youngest children think that might be a little bit scary, because it is, especially for that age. And there are some parts that are unintentionally funny, right? There's a spot there during the final confrontation. You've got Nicholas, he's arguing with the spirit in the book, and he's holding out the book, and he's maybe trying to reject the spirit, and the spirit's like, no! And the face comes out of the book, because it's just sort of this disembodied head stuck in the binding of, the crease in the book. And it ends up folding the book back, so the spine is more than 180 degrees, right? And the face is pushing it. And it's exaggerated and funny. Again, cartoon. My sister died laughing at this, right? This was just her favorite part of this movie from a comedic standpoint. And we would laugh about this all the time. As you go down through all of this, everything that's going on in the movie, it's like, holy cow. It gets surprisingly dark, but it's surprisingly well told. And you can understand, okay, from a marketing standpoint, you can kind of understand, they wanted to sell more Care Bears, let's introduce more characters, right? It's like with the Transformers movie. They have this opening battle, they kill off most of the original Transformers, so they can make room for the new batch that they're going to sell. Okay. Same, actually, a lot of the Decepticons too. Just most of the old characters from the cartoon get killed off, so they can make room for new ones. All right. Obviously, this one is not killing off Care Bears. That would be a little dark even for them, but especially for them, maybe. But the way it goes about it, the way it doesn't shy away from problems, right? Because I think one of the issues we see, honestly, in modern times, okay, we actually could use some Care Bear magic, I think, in some of our current culture. Boy, I'm good at the English today. Because what happens when we stop caring? What happens when we stop caring about each other? What happens when we stop opening up and allowing ourselves to care about others? What we get is the cesspools of hatred and vitriol that are X and blue sky, right? We get the divisiveness that says, you can't be friends with this person who voted for this person, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, I hear that. Every time there was an election, right? You'll get, there'll be a presidential election, and so I don't want to get overly political. This is just what I heard. It's like, okay, a Republican was elected, and now there's a bunch of stories in the news about how people are saying, well, all right, people, you can't be friends with Republicans now because they won this election, right? And I've seen it go the other way too, but I heard that a lot. You can't be friends with, don't date them, right? Because the important thing is not caring for each other and being friends with people, being open and listening to other people's ideas, because logical people can come to different conclusions logically. That's okay. That's I think one of the failings of Star Trek is presenting there's only one logical answer, which is not true. Only in mathematics is that maybe true. And even then. But what we get is a society that is so divisive, and it teaches people to not open up, to be afraid of being hurt, to be okay with just locking yourself in your room and not having friends, or only having a couple, and having those friends feed you more of that hate and vitriol. Okay, you hear about echo chambers and stuff in social media, and that's 100% true. I understand it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to places where I felt comfortable, and in those places, it just builds sort of an extremist view, because you never get to know people on the other side of a debate, right? The other side of an issue, hear why they got there. You may still disagree, right? I'm not saying that all this love and caring and togetherness everyone will come to the same conclusions. Again, no. Logical people will come to different conclusions logically, based off of the data they have, their own lived experiences, and their own personal morality, okay? As an example, right, we can both agree that we should help people who are less fortunate, okay? If we could agree that, hey, yeah, let's help people who are homeless. Awesome. We could disagree on how the best way to accomplish that, or what the best way to accomplish that is, right? One could argue that government programs are the best way. One could argue that social programs through private groups, right? Nonprofit groups, churches, right? That is the best way to help them. And we can have those disagreements while still agreeing that, hey, we actually need to be doing something about this problem, okay? That's great, okay? That's fine. But we need to be able to talk to each other, right? And not just, oh, this person votes Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or Socialist or Communist or whatever. And while I have personal problems with some of the philosophies, just being able to come together and listen and understand and talk to each other helps bring us together as a society. And as we look at what we get from the Care Bears movie, is we kind of see that. Now, yes, I don't know that it's necessarily exaggerated, because it's a kid's movie, and they have to show how bad it gets so quickly. it doesn't take a lot of time in the right social media circles to start realizing that, yeah, nobody wants to deal with each other anymore. Heck, you don't even have to be on social media. Just listen to some of the way some politicians talk about each other and talk about people in the other party, whatever the other party is, right? Leads to otherization, right? I've heard that term. I hope the idea that they're not part of us, therefore they are the other, and they must be shunned, right? You stop caring about others because of something else. And the Care Bears movie shows this, all right? And I think that message of, hey, yes, open up, listen to others. Yes, you could get hurt by being friends with somebody because they're going to leave or something like that. Or turns out people are fallible, and sometimes they're jerks. Sometimes they will hurt you. Okay, that is 100% true. Okay, sorry, it sucks to be the one to break it to you, but it does happen. But that doesn't mean that you need to shut yourself away from everybody. Or in the case of Nicholas, yes, he wanted friends. But what he was hearing, in this case from an evil spirit, but maybe you're hearing it from social media, which is kind of the same thing in some ways. What he was hearing was that rather than make friends, you want to get revenge. Okay. You want to make them know how the same loneliness and sadness you felt, rather than reaching out to find people to actually become friends with and feel that joy and togetherness that comes with, personal connection. It's like, no, forget that making friends. We're going to eliminate all friends everywhere, because now they know how you're going to feel or how you felt, right? Now they're going to know how you felt. That's how we're going to approach this. We're going to make them stop caring. We're going to make them feel all of that pain and loneliness. Okay. It is a great message from a show that you would expect to have that sort of message. Okay. That let's be friends. Let's care for each other. Let's be open about our feelings, and let's work through them, and through love and togetherness and all this stuff, we can be better. Okay. And it's really, really focused on we individually can be better. Okay. Now, again, I said the movie's not perfect, right? I've already talked about, songs are cheesy, animation's rough. That's okay. You can endure that. and I'm not going to say, hey, are you in your 50s and you should go watch the Care Bears movie? Okay, I'm kind of saying that. Honestly, really, the movie is made for young children. But it left its mark on me I was at the older edge of the spectrum when I saw it. So it came out in 85, so I was 8 or 9, something like that. And it was really targeted at my younger sisters. But it is there's a lot of nostalgia bait as part of the movie, right? There's a lot of nostalgia to this thing. I mean, part of the reason, do I like it because I saw it when I was 8 or 9? Yeah, probably that's definitely part of it. But as I go back and I watch it, and I watched it again last night, just to, again, refresh my memory. I do that before these really late movie reviews, and watch it, and with those eyes of, yeah, this goes dark and this goes hard, and it was for the freaking Care Bears. Yeah, it could have been just to steal a line from My Little Pony, friendship is magic, and we're just going to la-di-da-di-da prounce our way through. No, it went harder than it needed to be, and is a much better movie for it. And so, yes, I'm going to sit here. Yes, am I going to recommend that you watch the Care Bears movie? Yeah, I absolutely am going to recommend it. Don't go in expecting this to be high cinema, right? Let's not be crazy here. There's a reason the Care Bears movie has become sort of the cult classic that it is. There's a reason why it's hung around, okay? And that's because it really is a surprisingly, said, feels weird to say the word serious with a Care Bears movie, but yeah, it kind of is. Kind of is. So yeah, if you've seen it before, haven't seen it before, let me know what you think. Feel free to drop a comment and let me know, because yeah, it's one of those movies that has just hung around from my childhood and is good. And I hope that maybe some more people will see it, more kids will see it. If nothing else, let's keep the old movies alive. But until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.